Right, to finish the new items for this week, we're going to be looking at questions 12 and 13. We're still looking at surface area of prism, but now my bases either have 5 sides or 6 sides. So for the 5 sides, I know a polygon with 5 sides, we call that a pentagon. And then a figure with 6 sides, a polygon with 6 sides, we call that a hexagon. So we're going to call that pentagonal prism or hexagonal prism. All right, so let's take a look at a pentagonal prism. That means a base that has 5 sides. You guys can see the base, right? Let me highlight it. I'm going to highlight it in blue. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So the way I'm going to do this, the way I'm going to find the area of this prism, let me find the area of the bases. Let me draw 2 figures with 5 sides. They don't have to be that perfect. I'm just going to draw 2 bases. You can see the other base at the bottom, right? All right, so there's 2 bases. I'm going to draw 2 bases. Each figure has 5 sides. But then because my bases have 5 sides, I'm going to have 5 rectangles in the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Said you don't have to be a great artist. Just do a representation of what you're doing. So I did 2 bases and the rest are walls, right? Rectangles. Because the base has 5 sides, then I should have 5 rectangles in the center. We talk about a room, right? We said if the bases have 4 sides, then you have 4 walls. If the bases in this case have 5 sides, then you're gonna have 5 walls. So let's take a look at the area of the base, the area of a pentagon. I remembered we just covered this last week. Well, in this case, before the break, we saw that in order for us to find the area of a pentagon, we find the area of one triangle because we break the pentagon in 5 triangles. We get the area of one of those triangles and then we just multiply it by 5. So in my pentagon, I'm going to be looking at this triangle. I know the dotted side is 6.9, and I know this measurement outside is 10. Since we're dealing with a regular pentagon, I see one side is 10, so I know all the sides are 10. So let me get the area of that triangle. I want to go 10 times 6.9 because I multiply those two numbers, 10 times 6.9, and then my result, let me divide it by 2. And I happen to have 34.5. Now, let me write my decimal. If your decimal, because sometimes your numbered will have more than one decimal place. So I mean 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places. Don't round anything just yet. Okay. Write everything. In my case, there was only 34.5, only one decimal place. But if I had more than one decimal place, I multiply it out. Okay, one thing I forgot. That's just one triangle, not the whole pentagon. Okay. Now, okay, 34.5, but I'm going to multiply this, 34.5, I'm going to multiply this by 5. Now, you know why I'm multiplying this by 5? Where does the 5 come from? It is the amount of sides of my pentagon. Okay, so if my figure has 6 sides, then obviously you multiply by 6. Okay, so in this case, 34.5 times 5. So I get that each of my bases is 172.5. So see how I got the area of one triangle? And then multiply by how many sides there are. So each of the bases is 172.5. Good. Let me not worry about this triangle anymore. Let me see at the base. So I'm going to worry about the base now. I need to know the measurement of each of my sides. And in this case, each of the sides happens to be 10. Now, which number has nothing to do with my base? 8. Okay, so I'm just going to go 8, right? The height of the prism is 8. So I'm going to go 8 times each of the sides. It happens to be 8 times 10. And again, and again, again, and again. Right? Each of my walls happens to be 80. So then let me add everything up. Let me ask you this thing. For the rectangles, I see I'm adding the same number a lot. 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80. I'm adding it 5 times. Do you know a shortcut instead of 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80? Yeah, 80 times 5. Didn't we learn before that multiplication was repeated addition when we add the same number? So you can go 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80, or just go 8 times 5. Okay. And then plus 172.5 plus 172.5. And I'm going to say the final answer is 745. If you have decimals, round it to 1 decimal place, round it to the nearest tenth. All right, let's take a look at question number 13. Let's take a look at the base. Let me count how many sides the base has. When I'm looking at a prism, I start looking for a shape that is not a rectangle. I know that's the base. It might be a little tricky when the base is also rectangle, but to begin with, I start looking for a shape that is not a rectangle. So let me see. This base has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let me do a figure with 6 sides on the top and another one at the bottom. All right, I have my 2 bases. For my bases, I see my dotted line inside because I'm looking for a triangle. I'm going to be looking at this triangle. I know the measurements on the outside are 8. So for my triangle, I'm going to go 8 times 6.9 divided by 2. That's going to give me the area of my triangle. Whatever I get, I'm going to multiply this by 6. Now, why do I multiply by 6? Where does the 6 come from? Yeah, it is how many sides there are on my polygon. Okay, so 8 times 6.9 divided by 2. And then my answer, let me multiply this by 6. So I get that each of my bases is 165.6. Because my base has 6 sides, guess what? I have 6 rectangles in the center. Okay. What's the height of this prism? What number has nothing to do with your base? Yeah, 10. 10 is the height. What is the measurement of each side of your base? I know one side is 8, the other one's 8. They are all 8. Okay. So then go 10 times 8 for each of the walls. Just went 10 times 8 for each of my walls and inside. Now let me add everything. So I have 86 times plus 2 bases, and I happen to get 811.8.